Once upon a time, in the village of Oheze, there lived a wealthy farmer named Osaze. He was known across the land for his vast lands and large herds of livestock. Many people admire Osaze for his success, and countless villagers worked for him. He was respected, and his wealth seemed endless. But despite all these riches, there was one thing Osaze and his wife, Uvbi, did not have: children. Osaze and Uvbi have been married for over 5 years, yet their home remained silent. There was no sounds of children running around, no baby laughter to fill the empty halls. Uvbi, with her flawless beauty, was considered the perfect wife. She was admired by many for her grace and poise, and people often whispered about how lucky Osaze was to have her. But little did anyone know, Uvbi carried a dark secret that even her husband was unaware of. Uvbi was a witch. Though she smiled sweetly and seemed gentle, inside, her heart was full of bitterness and pain. The years of being childless weighed heavily on her, and it only deepened the anger and darkness she kept hiding. She performed dark rituals at night, secretly pleading for the one thing she wanted most: a child. Yet, no matter how many times she tried, her womb remained empty. This filled Uvbi with more bitterness, and each passing day made her curse her fate. Osaze, on the other hand, was growing restless. His parents had started pressuring him to take another wife. His friends too told him that he needed to marry someone who could give him children to inherit his wealth. At first, Osaze refused. He loved Uvbi and believed that their time would come. But as the years passed and the pressure grew, he began to wonder if perhaps it was time to consider their advice. After months of thinking, Osaze finally made the decision. He married a second wife named Itohan, a young woman from a nearby village. Itohan was everything a man could ask for: kind, gentle, and hardworking. She helped Osaze with the farm, following him to the fields and tending to the crops and animals with care. Unlike Uvbi, who stayed at home and kept to herself, Itohan was full of life, always smiling and eager to help. Itohan's presence in the household brought some joy to Osaze. He felt lighter, as if things were finally looking up. But Uvbi, who once smiled sweetly at her husband, now watched Itohan with a heart full of jealousy and suspicion. Uvbi's bitterness grew even stronger, for she knew the villagers whispered that Itohan would soon give Osaze the child he had longed for. Uvbi could not bear the thought. Every night, Uvbi would sneak out into the forest to perform dark rituals, hoping to find a way to stop Itohan from having children. She would chant under the moonlight, calling on the spirits to help her. But with each passing month, nothing seemed to work. Her frustration mounted, and her heart became darker. No one in the village knew what was happening behind the closed door, not even Osaze. 3 months after their marriage, Itohan became pregnant. The news spread like a wildfire throughout the village of Oheze. Osaze was overjoyed, believing that at last his dream of having a child was coming true. His happiness knew no bound. He showered Itohan with love and care, making sure she lacked nothing. Every day, Osaze will bring her the finest foods, the softest fabrics, and herbs from the best healers in the land. He wanted nothing more than to ensure that she and their unborn child were safe and healthy. Osaze's joy grew day by day, but for Uvbi, it was like a knife twisting in her chest. The more he doted on Itoan, the deeper her bitterness grew. She could no longer hide the jealousy burning inside her. The village women who gathered around Itoan, admiring her growing belly, praising her beauty, and congratulating Osaze. But Uvbi felt invisible, standing in the shadows of her husband's happiness. Her smile, once sweet and charming, had faded into a cold, bitter expression. In her heart, Uvbi knew she could not bear it any longer. She could not stand the thought of Itoan giving Osaze what she had failed to give him, a child. As the jealousy festered, Uvbi turned once again to the black powers she had tried so hard to leave behind. If she could not give Osaze a child, then neither would Itoan. Every night, while the husband slept, Uvbi would creep silently into Itoan's room. Under the cover of darkness, she would stand over the sleeping woman, her eyes glowing with hatred. Using her black magic, Uvbi would whisper ancient incantation, and slowly the baby would disappear from Itoan's womb, vanishing into the shadows. Night after night, Uvbi performed this sinister ritual. Each time, the life growing inside Itoan would fade, as if stolen by an unknown force. And each morning, Itoan woke up, feeling a cold emptiness. At first, she brushed it off, thinking it was just a strange dream or a passing fear. But as the day went on, the feeling grew worse. She would wake up in the middle of the night, her hand instinctively reaching for her belly, only to find that the warmth and life she had once felt were gone. Itoan was terrified. She tried to convince herself it was her imagination, that the baby was still there. But deep down, she knew something was terribly wrong. She felt like she was losing her mind, but she did not know how to explain it to anyone. How could she tell Osaze? What would he think of her if she said she felt the baby disappear in the middle of the night? Would he believe her, or would he think she was going mad? Osaze noticed the sadness in Itoan's eyes. He saw the way she grew quiet, her laughter fading day by day. Several times he asked her, "My love, what is wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" But each time, Itoan forced a smile, hiding her fear and confusion. "Nothing, my husband," she would say, trying to keep her voice steady. "I am fine, just tired." But Osaze knew there was something more. He could not shake the feeling that something was troubling his wife, something she was not telling him. Meanwhile, Uvbi watched with satisfaction as Itoan grew weaker and more distant. She could see the confusion and pain in the young woman's eyes, and he felt her twisted joy. But the ritual were taking their turn on Uvbi too. Each night, the magic drained her, leaving her more exhausted and haunted by the darkness she had called upon. Yet her bitterness was too strong to stop. She was determined to destroy Itoan's happiness, even if it meant losing her own soul in the process. As weeks passed, the once lively and joyful Itoan became shadow of herself. Her once glowing skin turned pale, and her bright eyes dull with fear. The villagers whispered about her sudden change, wondering what had happened to the cheerful woman they had known. But no one suspected the true horror unfolding behind the closed doors of Osaze's household. Uvbi continued her dark work, Every night, she will appear in Itoan's room and use her dark powers and take away the child from Itoan's womb. When she is done and left, Itoan will wake up in the middle of night and discover her baby is gone. It was a terrible situation for Itoan. And in the morning, when Itoan woke up from bed, she would discover that her baby is back. It was a mystery that she could not explain to anyone. Osaze continued to show love and care to both his wives, doing everything in his power to ensure they were happy. He made sure that Uvbi lacked nothing, treating her with the same respect and affection as before. But no amount of gifts or kindness could fill the void in Uvbi's heart. The fact that she remained childless while Itoan carried Osaze's unborn child tortured her every day. Though she tried to hide it, Uvbi's jealousy only grew stronger with each passing moment. Her night became restless, filled with dark dreams and whispers from the spirit she had invoked. Each time Osaze spoke lovingly about child Itoan would soon give him, Uvbi's heart burned with envy. She would lie awake at night, listening to the sounds of the house, her thoughts consumed by bitterness. It was not just jealousy, it was a gnawing pain that ate away at her soul, making her feel more distant from her husband. Meanwhile, Itoan was living in quiet torment. The nightly attacks on her pregnancy continued, leaving her feeling weak and helpless. No matter how much she tried to ignore it, she knew something was terribly wrong. The baby in her womb would vanish in the night, and she would wake up feeling empty, as if the life inside her had been stolen. Her once glowing happiness had turned into fear, and she did not know how much longer she would endure it. One day, the burden became too heavy for her to carry alone. Desperate and scared, Itoan decided to visit her mother. She needed answers, someone she could trust to help her make sense of the nightmare she was living through. She quietly prepared herself, leaving Osaze's house without raising suspicion. When she arrived at her mother's home, her mother was overjoyed to see her. It had been a while since they last met, and her mother had heard the news of Itoan's pregnancy. She welcomed her daughter warmly, eager to hear how everything was going. But as they sat down, Itoan's face revealed the truth. Something was deeply wrong. "Itoan, what is the matter?" her mother asked, noticing the sadness in her daughter's eyes. Itoan hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to explain what had been happening. But she could no longer keep it to herself. Slowly, she began to recount the strange events, the way her pregnancy felt like it was disappearing in the middle of the night, the fear that gripped her every time she woke up, with her womb feeling empty. As Itoan spoke, her mother's face turned serious. "This is a big problem," her mother said, her voice filled with concern. "What you are describing is not ordinary. Something dark is at work here, my daughter. I have heard of such things before, but they are not natural." Itoan's heart sank. She had tried to convince herself it was just an imagination. But now, hearing her mother's words, she knew the truth was far worse than she had thought. "What should I do, Mama?" Itoan asked, her voice trembling with fear. Her mother thought for a moment before speaking. "You must go back to your husband's house for now. But if this happens again, come back to me. There is someone I know, a powerful woman who can help. But we must be sure. If this continues, we will go to her." Itoan nodded, feeling a small sense of relief. At least now, she had someone to turn to. But the thought of returning to Osaze's house filled her with dread. She was not sure if she could endure another night of torment, but she had no choice. She trusted her mother's wisdom, and if things got worse, she would come back for help. With a heavy heart, Ituan returned to Osaze's house with a heart weighed down by fear and uncertainty. That night, when Ituan was sleeping, Uvbi appeared in her room again and took away the child. When she woke up, there were no child in her belly again. She was so scared. The next morning, she went back to her mother's place. Then her mother took her to a powerful woman. The woman told Ituan, anytime you woke up in the night and discover there is no child in your belly, run away to an unknown destination. But she clung to the hope that her mother's advice and the priest's guidance would save her. She moved about quietly, avoiding Uvbi's sharp eyes as she prepared herself for the night ahead. But deep down, she was terrified. She could no longer deny that a dark force was after her, one she could not explain, but had to escape from. That night, as she lay beside Osaze, her heart pounded in her chest. She barely slept, her body tense with anticipation. She prayed for safety, for deliverance from the evil that lurked in the shadows. But just as before, the nightmare repeated itself. In the dead of the night, Uvbi appeared in Ituan's room like a ghost, her face twisted with anger and jealousy. Using her dark powers, she once again took the unborn child from Ituan's womb. The malicious ritual had become a routine for Uvbi, and this time she was determined to ensure that Ituan's pregnancy would never reach full term. With a wicked smile, Uvbi vanished into the darkness, leaving behind an empty shell of what was once a thriving life in Ituan's womb. Ituan awoke with a sharp pain in her belly, and the horrifying realization hit her once more. The child was gone. Her trembling hands moved to her stomach, finding the flatness that confirmed her worst fears. Tears welled up in her eyes as she sat up, her heart pounding furiously in her chest. There was no time to waste. She remembered the priest's words clearly. The next time you wake up and discover the child is gone, you must leave the house immediately. Run to a place where no one can find you. Without hesitation, Ituan slid out of the bed. She moved quickly and quietly, carefully not to wake Osaze, who was still deep in sleep. Her heart ached for her husband, who remained oblivious to the torment she was going through. She wished she could confide in him, but she knew the danger was too great, and time was not on her side. Gathered only a few belongings, Ituan fled into the night, her heart pounding with fear and desperation. She felt the cold air against her skin as she hurried down the path away from the house she once called home. The darkness seemed to close in around her, but she pushed forward, determined to escape whatever evil was pursuing her. She had no idea where she would go or what would happen next, but she knew she had to get as far away as possible. When Uvbi returned that same night to return the child into Ituan's womb, she discovered Ituan was nowhere to be found. Panic surged through Uvbi. She rushed to check the house, but Ituan has gone far. She was not in the house. Realizing that Ituan had escaped, Uvbi's heart filled with rage. How could she have slipped away? Had she known all along? Fear began to creep into Uvbi's mind. If Ituan had sought help, everything could unravel. Her secret could be exposed, and the consequences would be disastrous. Uvbi consumed by her growing frustration. In her desperation, Uvbi stormed into the backyard where Osaze kept his herds of goats. The moonlight cast long shadows across the ground as the animals stared restlessly, unaware of the dark power that loomed near them. Uvbi's eyes fell on one of the goats, and a sinister idea formed in her mind, fueled by the rage of her failure. She decided that if she could not put the child back in its womb, she would transfer the baby to the goat instead. With a twisted grin, Uvbi summoned her black magic. Her hands moved in range, unnatural patterns, and ancient incantations escaped her lips. The goats, oblivious to what was happening, suddenly froze. Uvbi's power surrounded the animal, and in a flash of dark energy, the baby she had taken from its womb was replaced inside the goat, its body immediately swelling as it became heavily pregnant. Uvbi, satisfied with her cruel handwork, stepped back into the shadows, disappearing into the night. But something strange had taken root. Something far darker than even Uvbi could anticipate was now growing within that goat, and it would soon unleash horrors upon the unsuspecting village of Oheze. Thanks guys for watching this video. If you want to know the final part, how the goat finally gave birth to the baby, please let us know on the comment section. And if you are new on this channel, kindly subscribe to this channel to support us, like, share, and drop your comment below. And to our returning subscribers, thank you so much. We love you all.